Just before we get into the Metropol review, I'm going to sample some of the questions that I got yesterday. Here's the thing. What about the national housing levy now that is getting thrown to us? This is my response. We're going to get at the back end of that. I know Metropol review also looks at issues economy, but we are going to get at the back end of that. Before even the end of the day or tomorrow, that might be the major issue discussed. But today, what we're looking at is headlines that affect the weight of the money in your pocket. And when we talk about the weight of the money in your pocket, then we are talking about issues, money. We do know that just the other day, we had the big fake cash racket in one of the banks in the country. That forms the major issue on the Metropol review today. It's a big headline that traverses in the economy. And today in the studio, I am joined by a man who knows the world economy and the Kenyan economy on the fingertips. And so when it comes to understanding the effects of this to the weight of the money in your pocket, he is the one to get to. Datari, welcome to Metropol TV. Yes, this is us. We are trying to push a different conversation. People should be concerned about issues that affect money, issues that affect the well-being in the society. And we're not saying that politics is bad politics. No, we're saying any politics should actually focus on improving your welfare in terms of the weight of the money in your pocket. All right, so let's get into the first issue today. Yesterday, just a few weeks ago, we had a fake cash racket again in the country, right in one of the banks in this country. Kenyans have not forgotten that. Yesterday, another fake cash racket in this country. Let's first start to understand, therefore, why do we have these instances in the Kenyan economy when we have the Central Bank of Kenya now coming out and telling the banks, you need to have stringent, mechanisms to make sure that this doesn't happen. Why, Kenya?
Thank you, Simba.
Yes.
I think the problem is that some of these activities are done with people who have come from other countries.
Yes.
If you see any arrests which have been made, there must be a foreigner involved. And it's possible that Kenya is not very strict on these fake currency. I know we have a law on fake goods.
Yes.
But I'm not sure whether we have any law dealing with fake
currency, isn't it?
Maybe lawyers can tell us, but I'm not very aware. And when you look at Central Bank, they are not very much commenting on it because they believe that most of the currencies being copied are foreign currency. It's not their currency.
It's not their currency.
It's not their currency.
Yes.
So they are silent about it. But I think Central Bank, I'm sure in the future will come up with measures to stamp out this because in the end, it is going to affect our economy.
Yes.
And in the end, people are going to practice now to manufacture money, Kenyan money, which will also be circulating in the economy. And maybe bringing inflation, even distorting the prices of goods and services.
Just before we went on camera, I asked you the question, why Kenya? And you sort of gave me another perspective. When I asked you, why don't we see this in other economies in the world? And you sort of gave me a different perspective to understanding this. Can we sort of get back there and understand why we don't see this in other economies?
I've been in other foreign countries.
Yes.
But I've never had these issues of fake currency reported I was in UK for 5 years, but I didn't hear anything. I never read, even in papers, anything about fake currency.
Yes.
So maybe the law enforcing agencies are strong there.
Yes.
The central bank is strong to look at these activities, and probably there is no demand in that area. But it appears here in Kenya and in Africa, there might be demand for such currencies. Yeah. So they have a market. They know how to use this and how it can enter into the economy.
Yes.
Other areas maybe is not easy as it is in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so let's look at the flip side, therefore. I mean, Kenyan media loves this sort of stories. We are reactionary people. We've been told, you and your government, you react. You are not proactive. Is it good for us to continue reporting these stories for fake currency in the country? What is the flip side? Do we sort of expose the porosity of our markets to this fake currency by reporting them further, or should we sort of give it a blackout so we leave the relevant authorities to deal with these issues?
I think the journalists are doing a good job.
Yes.
Because as Kenyans we need information.
Yes.
And they should continue to report such activities so that we can follow how those activities have been dealt to its logical conclusion. Yeah.
Yes.
So if we don't report, it means we are condoning them and we will be quiet, and in the end the consequences might be bigger than what it is now. Yeah.
Well, I want you to make me understand clearly why I should be very much concerned about fake currency circulating in the Kenyan economy. Why should I bother? I don't have fake currency myself. Why should I bother?
As I said earlier, you need to bother because eventually it's going to affect your money in the pocket. The inflation will go up, meaning there will be much money chasing few goods in the economy. Therefore, the prices will be going up. So this will eventually translate into affecting the standard of living of the people
in the country.
country.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. With that note, I want us to move into the second issue about the economy of Kenya. Now, IMF says, look, you need to be a bit happy because the Kenyan economy, this is a projection. They are saying that we expect our Kenyan economy to grow by 10.1 trillion at the end of this year. Let's just stop there before we start to analyze deeper into what this projection means. Should we be happy with this projection, or we say it is just a projection by IMF and wait to see whether that will be true or not?
We need to be happy. It's a hope.
It's
giving us a good hope.
Yes.
That our economy will be growing.
Yes.
And this will give business people a focus, a vision, and what they want to do so that they can gain from a growing economy. And at the same time, they continue contributing to this growth.
Yes.
So, in the end, we need to be happy and hopeful
that this projection will come to be true.
But there are other factors which may intervene.
Okay.
But if it continues to be that way, we are happy.
Well, now, despite us being hopeful, yes, and they met this last week. This projection actually came out last week.
Correct.
But now, let's therefore poke holes into this projection and say, maybe we should not be hopeful or not we should be hopeful. Number one, inflation in the country. We do know that our Kenyan economy is based on GDP from agriculture. It points out to a huge, it's actually the leading contributor to GDP in the country. Yesterday, the weatherman came and said, we are so sorry, we don't expect rains soon. Daktari, in the backdrop that millers in the country have looked at this issue and said, look, maize flour products have gone up by 28.8%. That's inflation and the cost of living. Again, petroleum products, they've gone up. Is that something that the IMF should look into and say, maybe that projection, we need to revise it?
The IMF used particular factors.
Yes.
Constant.
Uh-huh.
If the rains continue or come to rain,
Yes.
then maybe the economy will flourish.
Yes.
But now, from the focus we have seen, and from the situation we are in and we know as Kenyans, the rains are late. Normally they start in March, but now we are in April,
Almost clearing April.
Yeah,
We've not
and
seen them yet.
there are no rains.
Yes.
And we know at the end of May, the rains are gone, normally. So we have a very short period, which means all activities which depend on agriculture, which depend on rain, then they are going to suffer, which will translate to less productivity, less production of our agricultural products.
Yes.
Less water in the reservoirs where we get our power, electricity from.
Yes.
Meaning we are going to have shortages in food products, shortages in our power, shortages in water.
Yes.
So that projection will have to be reviewed again. In addition, the security of the country also matters very much for any economy
When it comes to an economy to grow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that we are seeing these Al-Shabaab attacks.
We do know that they also captured 2 Cuban doctors.
Correct.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And the world is reading that.
Yes.
Arrest.
So you expect that to affect our economic growth because America has already issued an advisory.
They have.
They have.
And we do know that the tourism sector is now fighting America to revise that advisory that they give to its U.S. citizens.
Correct.
Yes.
So it means even our tourism sector is going to suffer. We are going to have less tourists from various countries to come and visit in Kenya. And you know, it's also one of the best sector which earns us a lot of foreign exchange money. And it is contributes to GDP in a great way.
Yes.
So even these projections by IMF will have to be revised taking into account of such activities.
Yes.
Or such happenings in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah.
Therefore, what should Kenyans feel? Yes, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We do know that, 10.1 trillion, that's a good thing for Kenyans to sort of be hopeful about. But what should you tell Kenyans, therefore, about this waiting, sort of they look for it and wait for the end of the year? What should they feel about this?
I think we need to be focused on what we are doing.
Yes.
Despite such challenges which have come in.
Yes.
And we should be able to find ways to mitigate such challenges.
Yes.
If we can, if they are under our control. Drought is not something you can always say you will control.
And control.
It requires a long-term planning.
Yes.
To have mega projects which can be used for irrigation.
Yes.
Therefore, we are yet into suffer and have our GDP reduced in the end of the year or in years to come if it continues.
Yes.
Security, our country is trying very much. And we have been able to mitigate some activities from our enemies.
Yes.
We should not lose track. We continue to focus on that.
Yes.
And we continue to see how best we can rally our people to support government programs on security.
On security
issues.
last point on this, Daktari, even as we speak about IMF projection being at 10.1 trillion, that means a 5.83% growth, which is the largest projection we've ever seen from IMF on the Kenyan economy. Did the IMF take into account that our economy right now, our public debt, has for the first time crossed the 5 trillion mark? Did they consider this, and how do you see this public debt going to affect this projection, other than the other factors that we've already spoken about?
IMF, they are very much aware.
Yes.
About this
the debt.
And the Kenyan government, and me having worked with the Minister of Finance and Planning,
yes,
I know IMF is always with Kenyan programs in
yes,
terms of financial management.
Yes.
So it's not a new thing to IMF.
Yes.
They know, they have taken it into account, and they have even, I'm sure, projected the
yes,
effects in the next 10 years. So their projection on this growth has taken into account the public debt. But they are advising the government on how best they can manage this to avoid the adverse effects to the Kenyan economy.
All right, perfectly put. Let's therefore cross over to the last issue today on the Metropol review. Still on IMF, they are saying the world economy right now is delicate. As somebody who really traverses the world economy and understands economic matters, right, and the states of government right now, why should Kenya be worried about the world economy? If IMF tells us, yes, your projection is 10.1 trillion at the end of this year, shouldn't we just be happy and celebrate? Despite what the IMF is saying about the world economy, we are fine. There is 10.1 trillion shillings projection. Why should a Kenyan be bothered?
The world economy, you know, with globalization now,
yes,
many countries in the world are interconnected.
Yes.
In terms of economic activities.
Yes.
We do international trade. We trade with many other countries.
Yes.
So if there's a problem with the US economy,
yes,
Chinese economy, then we also have a problem.
Yes.
Because they will have less demand for our goods and services.
Yes.
Because there will be less disposable income from the subjects of the United States,
yes,
of China. They may not even come in great numbers as tourists, because now that the economy is not performing, then it means even their pocket income is also being reduced. So we should worry, because we are interconnected in terms of economic activities.
Yes.
And bigger countries, when they are affected, we feel it more in developing countries.
Yes.
Our activities, if there is a problem with our economy, it may not seriously affect such big economies.
Yes.
But with their economies being affected, we are likely as developing nations to feel it. That's why we must be concerned.
Yes.
Because we buy goods from them, we sell goods to them.
Yes.
They come as we depend on them as tourists. So there are so that mix and integration of activities,
yes,
which may make us as Kenyans worry about their performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Top in key indications of why the economy, the world economy, is not doing good. China, they're saying they have a slow rate of growth in the economy. US as well. And I want to understand, China is a key partner to our Kenyan economy. Why should we worry about a slow growth rate to their economy as opposed to no growth rate at all? Those are the key factors that we should be concerned about. And so the question becomes, well, it is at that state, and our key partners to our economy, they're not experiencing much growth as they should have wanted. Why should we be concerned about that? And how do we get ourselves sort of around this headline by IMF? Is it that it's a stamped case? They're dead, they're slow, so you are going to experience as well? Or is it there's a way you can find yourself around this? Let's open that chat box and understand how we sort of find ourselves around this, or not.
I think the economies, as I've said, of the world are more intertwined now than they used to be.
Yes.
And if you find that China is not growing, now, you know, in Kenya now we are getting a lot of aid.
Yes.
And a lot of loans.
Yes.
From China. Obvious. Those loans are going to be expensive, or they may reduce in terms of lack of enough resources in that country because it is not growing economically. So you are bound to suffer by not going to get cheaper credit,
Yes.
not going to get assistance in terms of grants, because the economies are also shrinking.
Yes.
Yeah. And you see, we have so many projects in Kenya,
Yes.
which are now implemented by China
Yes.
and using Chinese money. They will be expensive in the end.
Yes.
Because they will have to say, look, our money, our economy is not performing.
Yes.
And therefore, we are going also to increase the price of the money we are giving you. Yeah.
When we look at the economies that we depend on mostly in the world, I will still get back to China and the US. When you critically look at it, therefore, somebody tells you, is there for time? Because these are the bigger economies in the world. Once China is not performing and US is not performing, then we start talking about the world economy not performing. You can actually find it's just a few of the economies that sort of affect the world performance in terms of our economy.
Correct.
Therefore, somebody want to ask the question, is it not therefore time that Kenya sort of found a way out of this? Should we, therefore, segment our economy and say, yes, we can chart, we can find new partners, all right, whose economy is being projected to be on a steady growth to sort of be partners with at this time? Or is it more complicated than me and another Kenyan somewhere would understand? Can we drop China? Can we drop US and chart new ways with other world economies that we know are performing fine?
Poor performance of economies is not a permanent feature.
Yes.
It's an event which comes maybe 1 or 2 years, and then maybe the country now will start growing. So you can't drop your friends because they are in a worse situation.
Yes.
The only way you do is also, if you have means, is to assist them to come up
Yes.
in that way, if you can.
Yes.
Not to abandon. Of course, yes, you can look for other countries.
Yes.
But you see, if US economy is not performing, Chinese economy is not performing, there is very little likelihood that other economies
Are
will perform.
performing as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can't abandon. You continue to see the best way to maneuver
Yes.
that terrain.
Uh-huh.
And you also focus on your issues
Yes.
and your events which can be able to mitigate effects which are coming from adverse performance of economies from the big countries.
Yes. So now Kenyans should not be worried about this headline?
Yeah, they can be worried, but not very much.
But not very much.
Not very much.
It is an economic factor. Sometimes they perform, sometimes they don't.
They don't.
All right.
Yeah.
Last question. This is to cap the conversation this morning. Are you happy with the Kenyan economy?
I'm very much so. I'm very happy with the Kenyan economy because it is growing well, it is doing well. I've been in this country. There are times we have had negative economic growth.
Yes.
And we still continued to survive.
Yes.
And now when we are growing more than 4%, 5%,
Yes.
is something any economist or any Kenyans can be happy about.
Yes.
So I'm very happy.
Yes.
And I hope and believe that we can continue that way.
You say you're happy. The middle class is crying. Why so, Dr.
You see, when we talk about GDP,
Yes.
gross domestic product, that is aggregate economy
Yes.
of goods and services valued. But there is what we call trickle-down effect
Yes.
in economics. This GDP in macroeconomic level
Yes.
is impressive, but maybe some areas are not receiving this.
Trickle down effect.
Yes.
Yes.
They are not receiving. That is why you hear some sectors and sections of the population crying. That's why sometimes the government comes up with the poverty eradication program.
Yes.
To focus on areas which this GDP trickle down cannot reach.
Yes.
You make a deliberate effort to address the issues and problems of sections of the population.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Harry, thank you very much for coming to Metropol Television. I'm very sure we shall be using your knowledge and experience in world economy and money issues once again on Metropol Television. Thank you for coming. This is the first day, but I'm very sure we shall be seeing you again and again. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. Metropol Television's Business AM takes a short break on that. Once we come back, we shall be telling you what to expect, what to look out for, the major headlines making essence to business issues around the country at this point. Don't you dare go away. They say that. I don't want to say it because I know you're not going away. All right, welcome back to Business AM this morning. I want to ask my director a question. Director, are you listening to me? All right, is it okay for me to blow my nose live on screen because I don't want us to go for a break and I've got a cold and you refuse to give me time off air. Is it okay? All right, so if I want to blow my nose, I go on break. That's fine. All right, now that is clear. Because yesterday I had trouble managing my cold and I didn't want to break the conversation. Here is the thing. We have him in the studio. Let's talk economy and governance. And that means we have to open the conversation by telling you what is going on in the country this week. We do know that we have the 4th annual legislative summit in Kisumu. It's going on. It's going on. And so you would think what they're going to talk about is issues, legislation in this country, make it easy for trade, make it easy for you to do business, make it easy for you to access the counties and understand how all these issues affect the weight of the money in your pocket. But guess what? That was not the top issue. The MCAs find a way to push, not for car loans, grants, saying, look, we should be treated equal to members of parliament and senators and governors in this country and make it easy for us to sort of make decisions governance and concentrate on issues governance. How does a car affect the way it is that you become a leader?
Thank you, Simba, for this opportunity once again. And I want to say that devolution is a very good thing.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot coming out of our devolved units since 2013. And I think Kenyans are generally happy with what we've achieved. But there is this trend now coming from the leaders at the devolved units and especially the MCAs to, of course, being self-centered, trying to get things that actually benefit themselves. And of course they have arguments that they put forward, and one of them is, why not us? The MPs are getting car grants.
Yeah.
Why not us? The MPs are getting mortgages. Why not us? But I really don't think it's something that we should be discussing at this level. the MCAs should be focusing on issues to do with legislation, how they can be able to use the county assembly to drive the legislative agenda forward in such a way that we have good governance at the counties,
Yes.
so that the common mwananchi can be able to feel the amounts that are going down to the counties. But politicians being who they are, they of course take such opportunities to drive their own agenda.
Yes.
And that is what the MCAs have done. But I think it's something that is now inherent in our country. And we need to ask ourselves, do we need all these MCAs?
Yes.
Do we need to change the way we want to run the counties going forward? And I think that is a discussion we've had since the handshake, and probably we can be able to continue having that discussion so that we know that yes, probably we made mistakes
Yes.
with how we set up our constitution in 2010, but we have an opportunity now to be able to amend the constitution in such a way that we don't end up with such cases.
Yes.
Yes.
Top of the issues that I was speaking to my friend yesterday, and we were talking about this in the newsroom, and so we said, let's look at what is going to take precedence at the legislative summit
Yes.
as the fourth one this year.
Yes.
Now, some of us say, look, they're going to talk about how to make counties trade within each other.
Yes.
Now, we do know that the proposals now, seated somewhere, not acted upon, we call them the one county, one commodity, isn't it?
Yes.
And how we can improve intra-county trades, isn't it? Yes. And how they can further development and say, look, we need to also devolve the other services that are within the national government to come down here so we can make service delivery good. Let's leave it at that and talk about what are the other things. Why should they sort of push for this inter-county and intra-county bills so that now we start to see more trading within these counties?
I think the MCAs have to operate within the framework that formed the counties. And we also have to realize that we are one country. We are not 47 countries.
Yes.
We are one country with one national government that does a bulk of the things.
Yes.
And the counties have 14 specific roles that they play, that they have to operate within. So these ideas of one county, one commodity, I don't know how effective that will be, because we also realize that our counties have different strengths and so many of other weaknesses. Some counties probably don't have this kind of commodity that we want to say that they have to push forward. Why should we push for laws to enable the counties trade? We are Kenya, we are a country. I mean, someone staying at the border of Kisii and Migori does not need laws to be able to trade. What we need is that the counties need to form bylaws that of course do not hinder that kind of trade. Because you don't want a situation like where I come from, a town called Keroka, whereby we are right at the border. One side of the border is Nyamira County, the other side of the border is Kisii County. How people interact in that town becomes a challenge. So the bylaws that the MCAs should be focusing on is how they can be able to have seamless trade within the counties, which is already happening, than trying to use these big words that of course will confuse people and wonder what is happening. Yes.
Last question. It's already started, it's ongoing, we expect more and more. What would be your precise legislative meeting from MCAs and senators in this country? What should be fighting for when you look at our economy, when you look at our counties? What should form precedents in this summit?
I think the MCAs and our senators, who of course with a lot of respect to them, some of them are very senior, they need more capacity building on what really is the Senate and what role should the Senate play when it comes to managing our counties. The MCAs also need a bit of capacity building so that they can be able to understand the oversight role when it comes to seeing what the county government is doing and ensuring that everything that goes on at the county government is done in the right way. That is the kind of discussion that we need to have from the professionals to tell the MCAs, this is your role. This is how we want you to play your role. The senators also need to realize that we are the oversight body of the counties. We've been sent to sit in the Senate so that we can be able to champion for the kind of push that the counties have to get more resources to the counties and also to, of course, to get more capacity and, of course, be able to benefit the people at the local level. But that is not happening. And that is the kind of discussion that probably want to see forward,
Yes.
other than discussing car grants and who wants what. Yes.
All right, that pushes us to the next point. There's a big headline happening in the country this week. The US government
Yes.
put Kenya among the top kidnap hotspots around the world and told its citizens, yes, you can go there, but be aware, you might get kidnapped. The tourism sector comes in and says, no, this is wrong. You should revisit this. The CS was speaking yesterday and telling them there are other factors at play here, and these sporadic kidnap cases, they don't matter. But then again, just barely after that, 2 doctors kidnapped, Cuban doctors. Let's look at this issue from 2 points that Kenyans are actually concerned about. Number 1, is it true what the Ministry of Health tells us, that we have no enough doctors with the experience that we need to fill up the universal health program that the country is now rolling out? And what therefore does this mean?
The first thing I will want to say is that I want to support, as much as I'm a patriotic Kenyan,
Yes.
the sentiments of the US government in terms of what happens in areas which are close to our borders.
Yes.
And that is happening in Mandera. It happens in so many areas along Lamu,
Yes.
which we border with Somalia. We've seen so many kidnap cases, and these kidnap cases sometimes they target foreigners, and of course we know what the terrorists want to achieve by kidnapping the foreigners. So the government has to do something. So I still don't understand how 2 Cuban doctors were kidnapped on Kenyan soil. Someone disappeared with them.
Yes.
I mean, what kind of border is that? Did they just disappear to thin air? They must driven. We must be having an army base there.
Yes.
That something had to be done. Those are the kind of issues that probably need to be addressed from there. But back to the issue of the doctors,
Yes.
the government is very insincere, and we've had this discussion here before.
Yes.
And we only have 7,300 registered doctors in the country.
Yes.
Against a population of probably around 50 million
Yes.
Kenyans. So we do not have enough doctors. That is the reality.
That is the reality.
But then again, ever since health was devolved, for the first time we are seeing a case whereby doctors from our universities are not being automatically absorbed to employment. So we have unemployed doctors out there. So have we done a need assessment for the country? Have we looked at how many doctors we're churning from our universities?
Yes.
Have we looked at how we can be able to increase capacity in our universities so that we can be able to have more doctors coming out?
Yes.
Because we have to develop local. Why a third world country wants to go out and get doctors from another country is something that I don't understand.
Yes.
We might be having the gaps, but we have the opportunity to partner with countries that want to work with us,
Yes.
to be able to build capacity from within and ensure that in the next 5 or 10 years, we actually have enough doctors in the country. That is, I think, that should be the agenda.
That should be the agenda.
Yes.
But the government says this, look, we respect the healthcare system of Cuba.
Yes.
Irrespective of this, they fell under a little pressure and took some doctors to Cuba, sort of benchmark how the healthcare system works. When you compare the 2 models, therefore, we do know that we have doctors in this country that have not been absorbed into the system. That's a fact. Look around, you don't need to walk far. When you compare the model of, can we take doctors there and benchmark, as opposed to bringing the doctors here to sort of get assimilated into the system? What model works for this Kenyan economy?
I think the issue of benchmarking is a good thing, and
Yes.
it happens in the government of people being taken to another country to see
Yes.
how it is working, so that when they come back, they have an opportunity to assist the government
Yes.
implement a similar model. That I have no problem with, and I have no problem with the government spending money for us to be able to benchmark with a country like Cuba, which has a very good healthcare system. But bringing in foreigners who actually do not speak English, who need a driver, they need a house, they need someone to be able to do translation. It's a challenge. To do interpretation is a challenge.
Yes.
We need to look at our local resources
Yes.
and work from within our local resources other than having to go out. And if we have to go out, then we have to think about the East African community, which we are trying to push for, and see how we can be able to get doctors from the within the East African community. Yeah, I think that is what should work for the country.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of expectations around this headline. We know the health ministry is silent on this. We're expecting and we're following this headline to see where this conversation takes us. All right. Still, back to the summit. Nyong'o says, look, let's employ all the county workers on contract. That will sanitize the county and also improve service delivery and stemming out ghost workers. Do you think that is a better proposal from the governor?
I'll address this issue as a young person who has worked in the country for a while. If you look at our counties currently, majority of the employees are young people. And the kind of young person we have is a very young, ambitious people. So the model that we had of our fathers and uncles who used to prefer a permanent and pensionable kind of employment is long gone. Nowadays, people are excited when they get 1-year contracts.
Yes.
Because they really don't want to stick to one job for a very long time.
Yes.
And when you look at the contract employment, the kind of output that you get from there is probably higher than when you have someone on permanent and pensionable terms. So I think the governor is right in terms of we need to have people who can be able to work. We just don't need to have employees.
Yes.
We need to have employees who can be able to have quality output from their jobs.
Yes.
And we also need to put our people in a way that they can be able to progress career-wise. And that can only be done through a contract, where of course you have annually or semi-annual kind of assessment to see what kind of output that person or what kind of benefit that person is bringing to the organization. That is a good idea.
That's a good idea. But now the stumbling block, he says, for most governors and county bosses is the County Public Service Board, which is a board that sort of looks into human resources. He says, so that now we leave the hiring process to the county boss, all right, to sort of manage every employee who works there. So stamp out the county's board, and then every little thing around that is for us to sort of leave this to the county bosses. But then people are saying, look, this board was actually introduced to sort of look into these issues that I'm told should have formed the first the presidents in the counties. Because number one, they're saying, look, because now of this County Public Service Board, they don't even have access to even who works there or doesn't work there. The posts are filled by them. The numeration is filled by them. Every single thing that is done by the County Public Service Board. All right. My director tells me that we need to check the sound for my guest this morning. I would like us to take just a little tiny break. Once we come back, we shall be exposing that. Is it time for us to get away with the County Public Service Board as we continue to look into more issues on Business AM? All right. We are back again on Business AM. So is it time for us to get away with this board? And how can you poke holes into the county bosses being the hiring and firing squad?
No, I think in every organization we must have within the organization an HR department.
Yes.
Even within the national government, you have the Public Service Commission, who of course whose work is to actually be able to manage that process of hiring. And that is what the County Public Service Board does.
Yes.
But you see, the person who actually appoints the members to the County Public Service Board is the governor.
Yes.
Of course, through the approval of the County Assembly. So then the governor has control of what happens at the County Public Service Board. And what we want to see is the professionalism from that board, the kind of input to the county where we have them engaging professionals rather than having to bring their brothers and sisters and cousins to work in the county.
Yes.
So we cannot have a situation whereby the governor actually employs directly, because that is not his role.
Yes.
He's the county CEO. He should be able to oversee everything that happens at the county level. But then that board, which is of course has that legislative ability to be able to employ
Yes.
and look at issues revolving around staff, should actually stay the way it is.
But that is the thing that governors are saying. Once you take the absolute power from us, and that's what Nyong'o is saying, once you take the absolute power from us, then the visibility into issues around getting human resource for counties becomes complicated, because there are ways they find themselves around this, and that's why we have no way of even finding ghost workers within the county.
No, I think with the kind of the digital system that we have currently and
Yes.
that can be employed in the counties, we can do away with the ghost workers.
Yes.
But then what the governors are doing is they are saying that we are the ones who are elected by the public.
Yes.
We shared our manifesto and we have an agenda that we must achieve within the next 5 years. The best way to achieve this agenda, of course, is to be able to have people around you who can be able to assist you achieve the agenda.
Yes.
And that is why they want to have the control. But on the issue of either being contracted or permanent and pensionable, that should not be an issue that the governor should be able to decide on.
Yes.
That should be hinged in law, that the County Public Service Board has that option, like they do with chief officers and county executive committee members, who are of course on 3-year contracts.
Yes.
They should have that option of employing people on contract.
Yes.
But the governor must have general control of the process, because if he fails at the end of the 5 years,
Yes.
it is not the employees who will be blamed, but the governor, who of course was elected by the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's swiftly therefore move over to the next item. SACCOs remain profitable and affected by digital disruption. But we're taking this angle therefore. We do know that over the past few weeks, some SACCOs have suffered in this country. Mwalimu Sacco, Ekeza Sacco, Stima Investment, they've really gone through a lot of negative headlines. So when you look at this, therefore, Kenyans will ask you, because once they see negative headlines in the biggest SACCOs in this country, then they start to run away from SACCOs, isn't it? But why are we having this headline again around this negative headline for SACCOs in this country?
SACCOs operate in a very unique environment.
Yes.
And they have been a very good platform
Yes.
for members, of course, to be able to get loans and develop themselves. That is why they are profitable.
Yes.
Because the model that the SACCOs use is not used elsewhere. They have very low interest rates.
Yes.
Members are allowed to save,
Yes.
and they of course access loans through guarantees,
Yes.
which you can't get at the bank or any other financial institution.
Yes.
So with all the kind of development we have in the digital disruption, the SACCOs will still survive. But of course they also need to look for a way of catching up with where the technology is.
Yes.
Because if they don't, they'll be swept aside at one point in time.
Yes.
But then the issues that we have with SACCOs, which have been inherent for a very long time, I have done audit for so many SACCOs.
Yes.
And I can tell you, SACCOs make many wrong decisions. The SACCO,
The board,
board,
and
yes,
the
yes.
management itself.
They make very wrong decisions. And
Yes.
that is the case of Mwalimu SACCO that they did.
Yes.
So what is driving SACCOs to the grave is the kind of decisions that are being made by the board, which some of them are very selfish. Some of them are not well guided in terms of getting some experts to be able to advise on whether those investments are viable or not.
Yes.
But the SACCOs that have, of course, have evolved over time and they have professionals on board, they are doing very well.
Yes.
And some of them are as big as the banks that we have.
Yes.
And we'll continue seeing them grow.
Yes.
So the SACCOs that are struggling are the ones that have had some kind of traditional management systems where the board members have a say. They know how to make money out of the system.
Yes.
They're making decisions for their own selfish interests.
Yes.
But it's the members who are suffering.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, their investments are being eroded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last issue on this before we cross over to the next one. So is it time? People have been talking about don't let the SACCOs operate by their own. Please put them under the Central Bank of Kenya umbrella so that every decision they make is within a control system, so we don't have issues like Mwalimu Sacco and the Keza Sacco now coming up. So now Kenyans, we do know they have a culture for SACCOs. They sort of get stamped there. Is it time we reassess this and put them under Central Bank of Kenya umbrella?
No, we have a very good regulatory framework
Yes.
that manages the SACCOs.
Yes.
The deposit-taking SACCOs have what we call SASRA,
Yes.
which is the regulatory authority that actually oversees those SACCOs that have FOSA, front office services.
Yes.
So we call them deposit-taking.
Yes.
And for the other SACCOs, the ministry has the capacity
Yes.
through the Commission of Cooperatives to manage them.
Yes.
So I don't think we want to push everything to the central bank so that when our system collapses, we all collapse.
Yes.
Let's have different regulatory authorities looking at how these models work, and we can probably strengthen the SASRA with better laws so that they can be able to oversee these SACCOs. That can work.
All right, let's close the business this morning. We've talked this issue with you, I know, on camera, off camera. Yes. The weatherman came out yesterday, said, I think we need to rethink again. Now, because of bad climate, no rains expected. Is it time for us to sacrifice this weatherman? What about his inconsistency? He told us to wait for the rains. We were ready. We went to the shamba. We cleared our sewages expecting the rains. But now they're saying, well, there are no more rains. What do we do?
As a professional, I respect professionals, and I'll want to respect the work of the weatherman because that is what he does. And our weatherman has, of course, evolved over time.
Yes.
They now have they are using the current technology, which give them a better view of what is happening in the world. But we need to ask ourselves as Kenyans, what is this that we did wrong that is driving us to where we are?
Yes.
Forget the issues about our rain being stuck in Tanzania. Sometimes back, some people actually said that rains come from heaven. We don't need trees to have rain in Kenya.
Yes, yes.
And that is why we are suffering today. We've made so many wrong decisions regarding our environment that we are now suffering from that.
Yes.
So we have to sit back and say, where did we go wrong? Has deforestation killed our prospects of getting rains like we always did? I mean, I was at home last week and it is raining in Kisii. It's not raining elsewhere. Even the rain that is raining there is not enough. And it's because of the issues revolving around how we've managed our environment.
Yes.
So that is what we should address as Kenyans. That we don't have rains. Where did the rain beat us? Then once we find a solution, we can be able to move forward.
Yes.
But blaming the weatherman or blaming Tanzania cannot really work for us now. But we just hope the rains will come, because if they don't, we'll have long droughts.
Yes.
And food security, of course, will be affected.
And
that will be a catastrophe for this country.
All right.
Yes.
I didn't say it. He said it. Your rains are not stuck in Tanzania. It is because of you that we don't have the rains. Do not sacrifice the weatherman. His role is to tell you whether they're coming or not. He can change his mind 20 times because of you. For us, we have to ask ourselves the question, where do we go next? So tomorrow, we also talk issues, what to expect in the economy as we look forward to the Easter holiday, or they call it weekend. Business AM, and it's right here, right now. Good morning and good day.